Seasons of Living. I'm Karen. On today's video, I'm going to answer the most frequently asked question, how do I take care of my sourdough starter? As you can see, I keep about 6 sourdough starters, but I don't keep them out and use them all the time. I keep them stored in the refrigerator just because there's some attachment I have to each one, or maybe the person that gave them to me. So I want them, but I really don't ever use them. So maybe once or twice a year. On today's video, I'm going to show you how to take care of your sourdough starter regardless of how long you've been storing it, how often you use it. So hopefully I can answer those questions that you might have. The easiest method that I found to keep my sourdough starter is the one that I use, and I keep my starters in the refrigerator. I live in Texas, so I live in a very hot environment. So for me, keeping the starters in the refrigerator it's what works best for my lifestyle. I cannot watch things all day. I am out gardening. I have milk cows on the go all the time. So I kind of have to do what works for me, like in the morning or maybe at lunch or when I get home, like at 5 p.m. So let me show you, super easy. And I've been doing this for about 10 years and I have actually never lost a starter, and I do not give them a lot of attention. So this jar I just took out of the refrigerator. It's in the morning. I haven't used this in 2 days. So I just used it after I made my recipe. I stuck it in the fridge, and this is the amount of starter that we have, which is about 1/4 cup. This is the method I would use to feed my sourdough starter if my starter had been in the refrigerator less than 7 days. So I used this starter 2 days ago, so this is the method that I would use. I will always feed, using this method, the sourdough 3 to around 8 hours before I'm ready to use it. So it's a colder day, so I'm gonna go a little, I think it'll be fine a little longer. But you also can come home from work like at 5 p.m. and feed your starter, take it out of the fridge, feed your starter, and it is ready to put something together like before bedtime. And that is, I usually start all of my sourdough projects at night between 9 p.m. and 10, right before I go to bed, because I have to do what's easiest. So this method, if you're busy and you're not home, this is a great way to do it. So the next method, we'll be back in a minute and I'll go over that with you. My next method I'm going to show you for taking care of sourdough starter is when you have left your sourdough starter in the refrigerator for like 6 weeks, a month, 2 months. So I actually have two of my sourdough starters, and I don't believe that I have checked them since around Christmas, and we're at Valentine's Day. So I'm going to let you look at this with me. I don't know what we're going to find, but anyway, I do see that it has a brown liquid. Each of them do. But that does not mean they're dead, and I'm going to show you what to do. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, let me show you a look. You want to make sure that there is no mold. Now, if there's mold, throw everything away and do not try to save it. But so far, all these years, I have not had mold. Okay, I just gave you a look at what the sourdough starter looks like. And so this method, back to, this is it if it's been in the refrigerator, over 7 days or a week, or you see the brown liquid, this is what you need to do. So the first one we're going to feed, we're just going to discard all, but about 1/4 cup. Oh, it's got lots of liquid on it. And we're gonna get rid of it. Maybe leave anywhere from a tablespoon to 1/4 cup, something like that. I think I have about, maybe a tablespoon. Okay. I still see some bubbles though, so that's really good. Okay, I'm going to feed it what I always feed all my starters, 1/4 cup of filtered water. Okay, stir it up. Okay, and a scant 1/2 cup of unbleached organic flour. So, just gonna, I love canning funnels. You should definitely get one. Okay, if I wanted to use this, you know, if I was gonna bake with this, I'm trying to, you know, it's been asleep in the refrigerator for a long time. I would probably need to feed it for a couple of days, like every 12 hours. So it would probably need 2 feedings a day for a couple of days. But I would, you know, what you're looking for is, you know, a lot of bubbles and a lot of activity. So whenever I thought it was active again, I would use it. So that's, of course, going to depend on your ambient temperature in your home, how fast it is mature. So I would just, so you're going to keep this out at room temperature if you want to use it for several days, feeding it twice a day until you're ready to use it. If I do not want to use it, I just want to feed it, because you should feed them like maybe every week or 2, you know, or it's a good idea instead of 2 months. But on this one, I just want to put it back in the fridge and come back to it later. So I'm going to leave it out like, you know, maybe an hour and kind of, you know, at room temperature. And then after about an hour, I'll put the lid on it, put it back in the fridge until I think about it again to feed it. And it will be fine. We'll be back on the 3rd way that I keep sourdough starter. This method is for those of you that want to leave your sourdough starter out at room temperature all the time. So if you keep feeding your sourdough starter, eventually you will have a jar this big of sourdough starter if you just keep feeding. So you really need to, if you don't use it for something, you really need to discard. And so to discard, you just take away, you know, all but about 1/4 cup, and you use it for crackers. I put it in a bowl and put it in the refrigerator because I do not waste it at all. I put it in the freezer sometimes, but I usually, sourdough crackers are usually perfect for that, or pancakes. Or you can just put it on a hot griddle, you know, thin it down where you can pour it like a batter and put it on a hot griddle, like for pizza or flatbreads. Super easy, and it is very delicious. But as a last resort, if I had, like, since I have 6 sourdough starters and I really have to discard, I would put it on my garden or give it to my chickens. I definitely would not throw it in the trash or down the garbage disposal. Okay, so you want to leave your sourdough starter out all the time. So you discard, and then you feed 1/4 cup of water and a scant 1/2 cup of unbleached flour if you have just a regular sourdough starter. Now, if you have whole wheat, use whole wheat, or rye, use rye. So I hope that helps. You can keep whatever amount of sourdough starter out on the counter you want. You know, if you don't, you know, that 1/4 cup and 1/2 cup is just to keep, you know, something going all the time that you can expand from. But if you want to keep like a jar of sourdough starter all the time, just, you know, add to it and take away whenever, you know, it's getting too big or when you're seeing the brown liquid. So there's a lot of different ways that will work, but about every 12 hours is what I feed it if I leave it out. And I keep a smaller amount and just pour my discard and put it in the refrigerator or freezer. And when I have enough discard together, I make something with it. So I hope that helps. Let's do a review of the 3 methods that we talked about today. The first method is if your sourdough starter has been in the refrigerator for less than a week. The pros to keeping it in the refrigerator are you do not have any discard, and you do not have to, you know, you don't have to be very hands-on. You can just bake Saturday morning pancakes and Wednesday crackers and take it out when you need it, and that's all you need. The con is it's not available all the time. You're going to have to take it out and feed it and wait. So you're gonna have to pre-plan a few hours. So if that's my favorite method, because that's the easiest to me. Okay, the second method is when your sourdough starter has been in the refrigerator more than 7 days or even several months, and it has the brown liquid. So what you would do is you want to take it out and feed it every 12 hours until you see some activity. And it just depends on the ambient temperature. It could be 1 to 2 days, or it could even be 2 feedings. So you just look for activity. And in the first video on how to start your sourdough starter, I showed you the float test. And that is the ultimate of knowing if your sourdough starter is ready. So review back to that video if you'd like to see how that's done. So the third way is for when you want to keep your sourdough starter ready to go all the time at room temperature. So in that case, I would leave it out, you know, in an area. I make all my sourdough in this area. I would feed it every 12 hours, especially if it was warm, maybe once every 24 hours, you know, if it's cooler in my ambient temperature. But if you see a brown liquid forming, you need to give it more food. So that's a little good rule of thumb. But you can, you know, make any amount of starter you want. You can have a jar this big full of starter and just, you know, spoon it out on a cast iron griddle and make pizza. Super easy, available, ready to go all the time. We're back in the evening after feeding our sourdough starter this morning. I just wanted to show you, so maybe it'll help you understand the process that I use. So this morning we took our sourdough starter jar out of the refrigerator. We fed it with 1/4 cup of water and 1/2 cup of flour. And it's been sitting out at room temperature all day. And so look how beautiful it is. It's all ready to bake. And so I'm ready to mix my pancakes together to have in the morning for breakfast. So I'm going to take 1/2 cup of starter out of my starter jar and put it in my bowl to make my pancakes. And then I'm going to take my jar. I'm not going to feed my sourdough starter. I'm just going to put the lid on the jar and put it back in the refrigerator until I decide that I want to bake with it again. So hope this helps. I hope today on this video I've demystified taking care of your sourdough starter. Please give us a like if you like this video, and please subscribe to our channel for more content on farmstead living. From our Texas Hill Country farmstead to you, have a blessed day, and bye-bye.